50-50 whether they'll just stand back and run away or just charge straight at you. So you've always got to be sort of looking around for places you can go just in case they do decide to charge. So it's pretty dangerous. It's coming.
Your mission: patrol the park, be prepared to arrest poachers, and be prepared to assist with casualties.
No matter where you are and whether you think we are losing or not losing the fight, is that the situation is not good.
Fueled by greed, no matter what the cost. It's a problem with no easy fix.
Because most jobs out here don't pay well, whereas if they get a rhino horn, it's a pretty big payday.
This is where poaching happens on the ground, but above us is a whole network of syndicates and cartels.
I've never seen a rhino up close before.
A kilo of rhino horn will go for £100,000.
And now the British Army has got involved in Malawi in trying to protect some of the world's most threatened species.
What's important for us is to make sure that our rangers on the ground are fully equipped and trained and, in the best position to fulfill their duties to protect the area.
When we leave for patrols, to celebrate that we've come back alive.
We are going to attack the enemy.
Yeah.
It needs to be stopped.
Two types of patrol that we're engaged in while we're here. One is strict long patrol where the CPOs, the soldiers, will go out with two rangers and work through mentoring them on various professional skills.
Commander will decide which way he wants to move.
Yeah.
Either left or right.
Yeah.
If he moves right,
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
the others they'll move left. Yeah? He is now at the Poacher. Stop firing. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now position clear. Yeah? Go.
The other bit where we're trying to learn as much as we can off these guys is where we attach the rhino trackers, who are sort of the park elite. They're proper bushmen, their fieldcraft is phenomenal. They know everything there is to know about finding rhino and tracking rhino. Black rhino are not docile, they're short-sighted and bad-tempered, they have very good hearing and very good sense of smell. They're territorial and they don't like other things being in their area. They also know what humans smell like and they don't like the smell of human, and they'll respond to your presence very quickly. So you need to be able to get in close enough to them, stay downwind, and get close enough to take a picture to confirm that it is the rhino you're after.
So I want to go around now. I want you to check the ammunition states,
And
the casualties, and the equipment of your guys.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we're emphasising is improving communication, particularly for clear reporting, primarily for medical or anti-poaching purposes.
Control Alpha 9, Mike, gunshot, India, gunshot wound, over.
Echo 9, Roger so far.
I mean, their appetite for this is immense. They're extremely enthusiastic about all the medical stuff, in general, and all the training we've been doing with them across the board, but particularly medical.
You go in both ears and go, hello, hello, can you hear me? And if they don't respond, then we can test if they respond to your voice.
Here, so pressing. Can you hold my hand? Yeah, so he's able to respond to this.
There are 14 British soldiers in all. This section are in the Majetti Reserve in the south of Malawi.
Situation then is near the end of the month. We're getting close to payday, so we can expect an increased demand for bushmeat. Whether that translates into increased poacher activity in the south of this area, wait out. Bear in mind, from the Boma out this way, there were 2 lions released this week. I know we've already had lion encounters in the north. Those 2 lions that have been released here are males, so the lion risk is very alive during this patrol.
One of the jobs, joining the experienced Malawian rhino trackers.
We're expecting to see maybe to encounter poachers which they need a rhino. So always we'll be ready.
These black rhino are just some of the 2,500 animals relocated here since 2003.
We have to be armed because there are poachers in the area, but also as a last resort, as an immediate threat to life through dangerous game.
They also aren't that keen on humans.
The point of the patrol is to check the rhino's health and see their general behaviour.
A device around their neck tells the trackers what direction they're in and how far away they are.
So it's within about 400 or 500 metres, but the problem is we're picking up a signal from an elephant just to the north, and the elephant is known to charge. So as soon as it smells human, so we need to watch out for that as well. Rhino trackers, they know the rhinos, and they can tell just by looking at them if they're healthy or not. Wind is a massive factor in this. You've always got to be going sort of against the wind, and the wind can change pretty quickly and very subtly as well without you realising. So you get close to the rhino, all of a sudden the wind changes.
It's coming. Okay. It's 50-50 whether they'll just turn back and run away or just charge straight at you. So you've always got to be sort of looking around for places you can go just in case they do decide to charge. So it's pretty dangerous.
It is. A couple of months ago, an experienced rhino expert was killed after being charged by one in nearby Rwanda.
We have got a clear vision on this animal. Now we want to get a photo. Yeah, we want a photo with our camera. If we charge, we should get up on the trees which are around here. For example, that one is a good tree to climb. This one is always a good tree to climb. Trees which has got a lot of branches. Yeah. Slowly by slowly. Avoid to step on them. It's coming. Yeah. What he's saying is we should not shake up. Just stand still. Just stand still. Don't shaking like this. Don't shake.
Then it's time to get out of the way, quickly.
As a young boy, I've always wanted to work with animals, sort of veterinary kind of work. And then when I was growing up, I did a project with the Mzingwane lions. After I seen the wildlife and what it's actually like out in the bush, I just really bit into it. And as soon as this came across the table, across the army, I took it straight away.
On a patrol that lasts for days, Chad trains the rangers on the skills of being a soldier.
We communicate mostly with hand signals. We try to minimize the talking as much as possible. If we do end up talking, it's a very soft whisper as a close unit.
In turn, the rangers show him how best to find the animals under threat, like lions, elephants and rhinos, in what is a challenging environment.
You don't really have time to think. Most of the time you're just concentrating on the environment itself, constantly looking, watching for dangerous game, anything that might sneak up on you. At the moment, there's not that many incursions into the park, but from what I understand, there's been a couple incursions into the park, people walking with dogs. There's been a couple spears that they use after they've chased the animals with the dogs. They come in with snares, gin traps. They lay them along the animal trails towards the watering holes. But, put your foot in there and probably is not going to get it back. Then there's guys that come in with muzzle loaders. It's an improvised weapon, normally made metal plumbing parts, wire, elastic bands, pretty much anything they can get their hands on. They come into the park with those and shoot the animals. And if need be, they can shoot us as well. If I was to come across a poacher out in the community and I was introduced to him, I would ask his reasons for doing it and what he thinks the consequences will be if he does get caught. It's not a matter of if he gets caught, it's a matter of when he gets caught, and he will go to jail.
That's the hope, at least. The illegal wildlife trade is a big business, worth up to £17 billion a year. Take a rhino horn. It's more expensive than cocaine, heroin or gold at up to £50,000 a kilo. In the last 50 years, black rhino numbers have dropped from 70,000 to 5,500. The country's elephant population has halved from 4,000 in the 1980s to 2,000 in 2015. Not only that, Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world. Historically, people have poached to either make a small bit of money or just to eat.
I became a poacher in 1995. We used to make guns, so we'd go into the game reserve with our traditionally made guns and kill the animals. There were different kinds of animals, which would include a hare, the antelopes, and some hylaxes. What prompted us to do that was we were facing a number of problems. We had so many challenges. We didn't have food in our homes. So the only option which we had was to go and poach into the game reserve. And after we do that, after we kill the animals, we bring it here, we sell it, we would get a little income. And from there, we could find something to eat. So that made us to go and do poaching. We faced a lot of problems when we were caught. They would beat us severely, and they didn't consider whether you're old, small, or very old. They would beat you, and then if you survive, it's your luck. If you die, that's your fate.
Craig Hay is in charge of the Majeti Reserve, which is run by an organisation called African Parks. It has 3 of them in Malawi.
In Majeti in particular, the poaching is low and on sustainable levels. In Majeti, we haven't lost rhino or elephant to poaching since Africans started managing Majeti in partnership with Malawi government. Prior days when there was still a lot of illegal activities and availability of firearms in Mozambique, the threats may come from the west. And we deploy our rangers strategically around the reserve randomly so that there's no predictable cycles. We here are really on the ground level, so we know this is where poaching happens on the ground, but above us is a whole network of syndicates and cartels and a whole trade of wildlife, and that's essentially what's driving the business. What's important for us is to make sure that our rangers on the ground are fully equipped and trained and in the best position to fulfill their duties to protect the area. Populations in Africa are rapidly growing. I think Malawi's population growth is about 3% per year. I think they say the population will double from 17 million by 2030. It should double in Malawi. So clear signs there's already immense pressure on the environment, and with double those numbers, it's going to be even more the case. So even more the reason to make sure that we protect these areas so that those people in 2030 have a natural heritage to enjoy and to be part of. Yeah.
Craig talks about a new threat, which has been compared to climate change, disease and weapons of mass destruction. International organised crime, powered by a wealthy black market, mostly in Asian countries like China and Vietnam. For thousands of years, some believe the body parts from animals like tigers and rhinoceroses help do things like cure cancer and improve your sex drive, which has never been scientifically backed up. Then there's the illegal ivory trade as well. While Majeti looks totally wild, it's very controlled. The armed rangers and electric fence mean most people have to pay to get in. However, because of that, there have been no rhinos or elephants poached for 15 years. But it's not always been like this.
Quite terrible here. I can assure you that we lost a few rangers being shot at, in cold blood, in their line of duty. And I think that wasn't pleasant at all. I think our families always, when we leave for patrols, I mean, when we come back, they would celebrate that we've come back alive, you know. And that was the kind of situation that was in most of the parks in Malawi. And you've seen communities coming here. You've seen that there's no poaching. You've seen that there's roads in the parks, some infrastructure, some business enterprises. This is where we wanted the park to be. The idea is that other than people sitting out there expecting to harvest from the park, then they have alternatives of generating income. Conservation has to have a holistic approach dimension, and not only protecting wildlife for the sake of it, but there has to be a utility component in it. I think some models have been tried and they haven't worked. And this one basically, to us, is a model that is working.
There's no doubt poachers are being put off by these patrols, along with tougher sentences. Yes, the money coming in through tourism is helping change attitudes, although in neighbouring Zimbabwe and Mozambique, poor communities still don't like the fact that more cash goes into protecting the reserve for wealthy white tourists instead of them.
The situation is very serious. Are they losing the fight or not losing the fight? I think that, it's hard to say, what do we base that on? So I think one thing we do need to think about is it's not simply about how many numbers of elephants or rhinos are being lost or how many poachers are being caught and arrested, but the broader picture of what this poaching conflict means for conservation in these areas, both in an ecological and social sense. I think training and capacity building and building the skills of rangers is a great thing. I'm quite skeptical of the use of the military in training rangers, especially the use of a foreign military that doesn't necessarily know the context in which they're operating and that is not trained in conservation.
At the beginning, you don't really know what to expect. Like, I've never seen a rhino up close before. It's strange to see how big they are and how fast they can move towards you as well. It's quite frightening to start off with. Where we're doing the rhino tracking, it's normally pretty dense and the grass is quite high, which is a problem. If you start breaking twigs and making noise, they'll come towards you, and obviously you only want them to come towards you on your terms.
The rhino didn't charge this time, so it's safe to come down. Crucially though, they got their pick.
The relationship's great with the rangers. They're the experts out here in the bush. They know everything. You can spend as much time out here as you like, but they've lived there all their lives.
Down here.
Probably here.
Yeah.
He was just there looking at me, and there was Matthews in a tree behind.
Yeah.
And then he stood there, and then he just turned around and ran off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've come really close. You can get unstuck quite quickly out here if you don't really know what you're doing.
Yes, yeah, we have good pictures. This one.
Yeah, I think that was pretty successful. Yeah, got everything we needed. We've seen 2 rhinos today, both all in good health. Yeah, I think it was really successful.
These areas, they're actually really important to me, and I think they should be important to everyone for the future generations. Killing animals and what's going to be left for future generations. Just a bunch of pictures in a book.
These British soldiers have been welcomed here, and the rangers say they have benefited. They're only here for a few months though, so what about when they're gone?
Some of the facts on rhino will shock people who aren't aware of how under threat rhino are.
It's the first step is to make sure we don't lose more protected areas.
The big worry is that organised crime could corrupt some of the key people fighting against them.
People were relocated from the park, so that drew a bit of controversy, and people were sort of unhappy that they left the land of their ancestors.
I have a real concern that the future of conservation in Africa is going to not take a step back to that hard fortress conservation model, but it's going to bring that model forward and intensify it.
UK ministers have praised the armed forces for playing their part against what they've called a sickening and illegal industry.
At times you just want to be with your family, and sometimes you just can't.
But poaching is a problem far from being solved.
And we can be asking, does the British military have the background and the skills itself to train rangers beyond that hard line anti-poaching?